WoW Classic Exploration Part 9, Mount Hyjal. So, getting into Mount Hyjal. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to use a little bit of a tricky jump in Dark Whisper Gorge in the southern end of Winter Spring. You're going to see it on the mini-map I'm bringing up there. Where you have to get to this spot and you jump onto the rim of this pillar. Now, it's kind of tricky, but if you kind of jump the way that I'm showing here in the footage, you'll eventually land on a little spot that will allow you to jump a second time up onto that ridge. It's not simple to do. It took me a while, so I'm going to fast forward some of this footage. Now, once you're able to stick that little jump and you get that second hop onto the ledge, I recommend turning on your RP walk to slowly go around the edge of this pillar so that you don't risk falling off, because that can be a real pain in the butt to get back up here. The good news is once you get to this point, you're pretty much home free. You want to do a little bit of a hop there to get up on top. The next jump, you're going to be jumping to a little ledge over on the left. I use my mount for that, but it's not really required. And then we're going to want to go left over on top of these strange little mountainous rocky outcroppings. And we're going to keep going that way a little bit. And eventually, we're going to get to the entrance to Mount Hyjal. Now, in the map files for the game, there's a portal to Mount Hyjal down underneath where we are now. That's blocked off by a metal gate. It's inside of a little cave. Some of you might have seen it. So we're going to be going over that. But before we do, I want to demonstrate what we're seeing here. There are invisible walls in this area that are meant to stop you from getting into Hyjal. If you fall down there by accident, getting out is really easy. Just find the spot that I'm showing in the footage and just keep jumping forward. And it'll take you right back up. Now, if you find the invisible wall, that's just a signal that you need to go a little bit further to the west to get around them. If you follow the path I'm taking in the footage here, it'll get you to a spot right over here where you can go up that ledge that we're looking at and get sort of around and over the invisible wall. It's not super easy to get up there. You can slip and fall off. You might, have to go back up a couple of times, but that's fine. Again, I recommend doing this with a mage or a paladin, and there's a really important disclaimer that needs to get mentioned at this point. Caution! Res sickness is a thing. If you die off in the middle of nowhere in some of these weird places, the game won't know what to do. It'll put your ghost in Dunmoreau or the Barrens, and you might not be able to get back, and you'll have to accept a spirit res and all the repair costs that go with that. Be careful and don't fall. Okay, so with that out of the way, we've gotten ourselves into Mount Hyjal. What do we do now? The zone is enormous, and in preparing for this video, I recorded well over an hour of footage, but obviously I'm going to condense that down a little bit. I want to show one interesting feature first. There is an instance portal inside of Mount Hyjal, inside of a big dragon mouth. It looks very similar to the entrance to Onyxia's lair, with the exception that it doesn't open. And for the curious, the character I'm on here does have is attuned for Onyxia's lair and has the pendant and all that good stuff. I've got every attunement finished. I've got all the items in the inventory, and it doesn't open. There's some debate, within the community as to whether or not this was the original entrance to Onyxia's lair, or if this was going to be another dragon raid. There's some speculation that it might have been a raid for Deathwing, but as far as I'm aware, nothing's really been confirmed. When we do the footage exploring the zone, you're going to see me pass by this area from a little bit higher up on a ledge. I stop and take a look, but I wanted to come back and show this footage up front, because this Dragon Head raid instance portal here is kind of far out of the way, and it takes a little while to get back on the trail from it. and I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time like mid exploration. But so just remember that this is here. So, exploring Mount Hyjal. As I mentioned, this zone is absolutely enormous. I strongly recommend that you bring a mount, preferably, the epic mount. You can explore this zone on foot. I mean, there's nothing to get here other than the elites in Dark Whisper Gorge that might stop you from getting in at a very low level. But I recommend, you mount up if you're going to come explore this place. The zone is gigantic. Now, the general layout is very similar to the layout that we saw in the Cataclysm expansion when this was all opened up. And parts of it are also similar to what we saw in the raid, the battle for Mount Hyjal in the Burning Crusade. So if you're familiar with either of those parts of content, you're going to see a lot of familiar sights, as you're exploring your way through here. One of the other things to be aware of is, again, as I mentioned, if you die here, the game is going to throw you, down into the Barrens or off in Dun Moreau. So don't fall, don't die. You'll have to take a spirit res, and that's never fun. Now, the Mount Hyjal zone is one of the more mature and finished out of all of the different closed zones in the game. As you can see, there's decorative terrain here. There's these gates. There are a lot of terrain features that don't really appear anywhere else in World of Warcraft. And, there's a lot of history with this particular zone. Blizzard had originally been thinking that they were going to make this a raid, then it was going to be a high-level questing zone, then it was going to be a raid again, and, it kind of kept going back and forth. And then, eventually when they were ready to release, they couldn't figure out what was going to happen with it, so they ended up just closing it off. So this is all here. There isn't anything you can interact with, but the terrain is finished. And again, parts of this, like this little temple over the outcropping we're going to look at here, parts of this are going to look very familiar. If you've come to this zone in the Cataclysm expansion, you can kind of navigate through the content. Up ahead, we're going to see the corpse of Archimonde tangled up in the roots of the World Tree. We'll see the famous Blizzard construction under construction sign that's on the ground. I take a minute to zoom in on that. You'll find all these these corrupted temples we're kind of looking at here. It's not really clear what was actually going to be here if they populated this for the release of the game, but the terrain's here, even without anyone to talk to. I think it's pretty interesting to come look at this, if for no other reason than to sort of wonder what might have been and reminisce a little bit about what they finally did with this zone when it came out in Cataclysm. So I'm going to shut up, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the exploration footage. And as always, thank you for watching.